It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. It's another beautiful day in the neighborhood, or at least I think it is. So if you are listening to this episode right now, you are in for quite the treat. This is my super secret squirrel episode about Stable. Now, all of you who responded to the post on LinkedIn, you're going to be getting a copy of this episode. My only request is that you don't keep it a secret. If you want to share the link to this episode to others, I'm going to encourage you to do it. But I'm here with none other than the man, the myth, the legend. I'm here with the creator of the Stable Framework, Mike Berry. Mike, how's it going today?
It's going greatly. Good to be here with you.
Fantastic. Well, a lot of people are asking me now. I realize I went and I got these certifications, but why not go straight to the source? If I asked you to give an elevator pitch, just a 30 to 60-second review of what is Stable, because there's a lot of people who are saying, oh, you got more horses. Great. I'm like, no, that's not what this is. So what is the Stable framework and how is it different than just like a Scrum certification or a regular Agile class? Because I think it has a lot more to offer, right?
Sure, yes. Thank you for that question. So the easiest way to understand what Stable is to understand what operational excellence is. I've learned that companies everywhere are all looking for the same thing, even though they may not have the vocabulary for it. And what they're looking for is operational excellence. And operational excellence breaks down into two objectives. The first one is being able to nail what your customer wants, and we call that effectiveness.
Right.
And the second objective is to be able to do that while minimizing any kind of excess waste along the way. And we call that efficiency.
Makes sense.
And so the agile mindset, which we've developed wonderfully as an industry over the last 20 years, is how we achieve the first objective, effectiveness, by getting close to the customer, maximizing value for the customer, short feedback cycles, and pivoting quickly where we need to. The stable mindset is how we achieve the efficiency objective, and there's a whole set of tools that are used to achieve that. And we do that by limiting a problem that we all experience called the hidden factory.
Oh, yeah.
And the hidden factory is basically everything that your group has to do over again because it did not go right the first time.
That makes sense. And some of these concepts that I'm hearing you talk about, they're rooted in lean manufacturing.
Sure.
Some of these concepts are rooted in some of the traditional mindset of project management. But overall, what we discover is that it's kind of the synchronized thing between the two, where you're pulling in some of the agile mindset as well as some of the lean mindset to get to the point. But one of the things that I loved when I went and took your certification was you told a little story, and it really resonated with me. It was about an organization that discovered a new way of communicating with a leader. And they said, this leader's more receptive to visual communication. So we're going to create visual radiators and do those kinds of things. And for a while, that organization had some success. But then over time, what happened is those people moved on. They went and worked on other projects. They moved on and got promoted. Somebody won a lottery, whatever the case might be. But then a new regime was in, and this regime was really struggling to communicate with that leader. And I said, hey, maybe this leader relates better to visual radiators. But what was interesting about that is that, they weren't making mistakes, but they were repeating the same thing over and over, trying to
learning.
get to
They were learning the same lessons over and over.
Yeah.
Over a period of time, like 6 months or a year apart, but they were the same lessons they were relearning. And I'm glad that you remember that from the certification, because that's a really important principle that a lot of people have never really thought about.
Mhm.
And in Stable, we call that fake continual improvement versus sustained continual improvement.
Yeah.
And it's an illusion. If everybody's busy learning, learning better ways to do things, that's wonderful. That's what we want. But the bigger problem is if they never write that down anywhere, then it stays as tribal knowledge and never becomes institutional knowledge. And so the net effect of that is that a year later, you got a different group of people working with maybe that same sponsor or, in that same area within the company, and they're relearning all the ways to fix everything and do everything that the old group knew a year or two ago and is now gone, and that information left with them.
Right.
So it looks like there's lots of continual improvement going on everywhere, but it's an illusion. If you visit that company 5 years later,
They're doing
nothing
the
has
same
changed.
thing.
Nothing has changed. They're doing
Yeah.
the same thing.
And they're doing the same thing. And that was one thing that stood out to me. The other thing that stood out to me, and I'm just picking on one or two things here because I know we are short on time because we are doing a daily scrum, is that we focused on the ability. So one of the things that I realized, and you said this very eloquently, is that Agile doesn't necessarily count as a quality management system. That Agile isn't the whole package.
Yeah, it's got some great quality attributes to it, but it's not exactly doesn't exactly fit the definition of a quality system. And in one word, I guess two words, what's missing in Agile that's not part of the formal framework
Mhm.
is written down. A real quality system, you've got to transfer that knowledge from tribal knowledge into institutional knowledge. You've got to write it down. That's really the key to a good full quality system. And so I'll tell you something very interesting.
Yeah.
If you look at the 12 agile principles, the very last one, number 12,
Mhm.
I don't have it in front of me, but it reads something like, we're going to make things better and better through
We're going to see continual improvement
see
through.
continual
Yeah,
improvement through reflection and
sure.
improvement and change. And that's what stable is. It's really the embodiment of that 12th principle.
And that's incredible that you drew that lightness, because I'll tell you what, there for a long time there have been people who struggled with the 12 principles. And it's not so much that they struggle with what they say, it's they struggle with the interpretation of what they
Yeah.
say and the application of what they say.
Yep.
So the fact that Stable came in and sort of embodied that 12th principle, it really is incredible. And it really does mean a lot to know that you were thoughtful about the way you put this together, that it wasn't something that was just haphazardly put together. And it's one of those things where, we all know that we could be doing better. We all know that we could be improving. We all know that we could be on our way. But it's one of those things where if we don't, if we don't take the time, like you said, to document things, and I want to be careful because Agile's about lightweight
Yeah.
documentation, right?
Yep. It is.
So we're not talking about keeping like, pages and pages of records and
No.
documenting extensively. This is
We all
just
know
something.
nobody reads that stuff.
So, and I have access now to number 12. I want to make sure I read it to you exactly as it is. It says at regular intervals, the team will reflect on how to become more effective, then tune and adjust its behavior accordingly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it literally, if we
Yeah.
could put stable in a dictionary to stable framework, that this
Mhm.
might be the
In
definition.
one sentence. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I don't want to let the cat out of the bag all the way, but do you want to tell just briefly the two different roles and talk about those two certifications?
Sure.
And then I'll close and give you some information about how to get in touch with
Sure.
us.
Absolutely. So the the two roles in stable are master chief and a process owner.
Mhm.
And you can think of it like this: the master chief is the senior quality person within the environment. And one of the biggest problems today in quality management and
Mhm.
business is that you can go to any large company and go find the quality manager. You can ask them that question. They'll
Yeah,
all give you the same answer. I know because I've done it.
right.
The answer is no one listens to us. We could save this
Mhm.
company so much money, millions and millions of dollars, and no one listens to us.
That's how I make all my money coaching. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
So, so stable solves that by making the senior person in the environment the master chief,
Yeah.
and their role very simply is to establish an environment where the process owners can succeed using stable,
Uh-huh.
and then to create feedback loops with the different customers and to make sure that we're getting customer satisfaction information, net promoter score information,
Right.
and that's their roles in a couple sentences.
I want to make sure I emphasize one thing real quick.
Sure.
So, one of the other components that I always talk about that's missing in Agile, and I get this question a lot, is the leader wants to be involved, but we don't want them to micromanage. But the leader wants to feel like they have some control over what's going on, but we don't want them necessarily to be so devil in the details
Of
involved.
course.
So this seems like a real good fit for organizations who are struggling to identify where that leader
Yes.
fits into the day-to-day Agile
Well,
framework.
in Agile, we all joke about what's the role of the development manager, right?
Yeah.
And the answer is to stay out of everybody's way, right?
Right.
So with Stable, we now have a real legitimate role for the development manager, and it's a great role. It's an excellent role. They're basically in enforcing accountability in
Uh-huh.
a lightweight way.
Super duper.
And then the process owner is basically everybody else.
Yep.
So you identify the areas that you have stewardship over, and there's a set of tools for improving those repeatable steps,
Right.
and getting better. And you create a system. Working with all the other process owners of the Master Chief, you create a self-learning system. They get smarter and smarter and smarter, and so you repeat fewer and fewer mistakes.
Right.
And pretty soon you operate in an environment where there's no firefighting needed anymore, and the team is able to use their full bandwidth to build stuff going forward. Most of the groups I talk to report about 35% hidden factory,
Wow.
and it can go all the way up to 80%.
That's crazy.
And so if you could think about, if you could reclaim that time, how much, how effective your team would be and how much more you could get done.
Yep. That's incredible. So one of the things that I just think of right away is just, if we can get away from firefighting and get back to fire prevention and discovering things
Yes.
early, that's going to be a lot less expensive. It's just
Yep.
going to be a much better value for the Agile organization. So I can tell you now, when I first walked into these classes, I did have a copy of the Stable book and I read it ahead of time and I got excited. But there were some gaps that I thought I saw. But then those perceived gaps went away just after a couple of days with Mike and really understanding how it all pieced together. But I think the real beauty in this Stable framework lies in the fact that it does rest quite easily on top of Agile, and it supports a lot of what the Agile principles are. So it's not something that's separate. It's not something where you're going to have to go hire new people. It's not
Right.
something where you're going to have to do all these things institutional and make all these huge changes. It's just more surrounding better behavior and a better way to do things.
Mhm.
So if people want to learn more about this, I encourage you to visit Mike's company, Red Rock Research, and they have a lot of things online that you can see there. I'll post some links here in the details of the podcast.
And also the stableframework.org.
Oh yeah. So I almost
I
forgot
should
about
say
that.
stableframework.org.
So stableframework.org is the website that's going to teach you as much as you want to know about Stable. What I can tell you is this is an exciting opportunity to get on the ground level of something that is relatively new in the Agile community, but something that I feel like is going to add great value. And Mike, I want to say thank you for being here today.
Sure.
As
My
always, I
pleasure,
want to end
Lee.
on time. If you have questions about this or anything else, feel free to reach out to us at learnmoreatagiledad.com, where we'd love to hear from you. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.